Winter has a way of exposing every weakness in a garden. One unexpected cold snap, one dry freeze, and suddenly an entire bed that looked healthy in fall collapses overnight. But there's a quiet little trick that seasoned growers use to keep plants alive long after the cold should have taken them out. It doesn't rely on compost, it doesn't rely on mulch. And once you understand it, you'll wonder why every gardener isn't doing it. Today, on Timeless Crops Haven, we're diving into the winter root zone blanket, a simple, science-backed technique that protects your beds even in the harshest months. A root zone blanket is nothing more than a thin, insulating layer placed directly over the soil surface. Not over hoops, not suspended in the air, right on the soil. Its purpose isn't to warm the air around your plants. It's to trap the natural heat rising from the soil itself and slow the rate at which the ground loses warmth during a freeze. This simple idea creates a microclimate a few degrees warmer at root level, which is exactly where cold damage begins. It's a trick that gives your plants a fighting chance, especially hardy greens, herbs, garlic, onions, and overwintered brassicas. Gardeners typically use 3 materials to create this blanket: dry grass clippings, loose straw, or a lightweight frost fabric. Each works for the same basic reason, but in slightly different ways. Grass clippings insulate tightly and trap heat well, but they should always be dry so they don't form a wet, smothering mat. Straw has natural airflow and stays fluffy, making it ideal for preventing moisture buildup. Frost fabric, on the other hand, is clean, reusable, and creates an even thermal barrier without smothering low plants. All 3 keep wind off the soil surface, and that small protection alone reduces rapid heat loss more than most gardeners expect. Start by clearing the bed of dead debris and wilted leaves. This keeps pests from settling in for the winter and prevents mold from forming under the blanket. If the soil is dry, lightly water it. This part matters because moist soil holds heat better than dry soil. For a standard 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed, use about 2 to 3 gallons of water to achieve a gentle, even moisture level before applying your blanket. If you're using grass clippings, aim for a thickness of 2 to 3 inches. That equals between 5.3 and 8 cubic feet of material for a 32 square foot bed. In simple terms, that's roughly 2 to 3 wheelbarrow loads if your wheelbarrow holds about 3 cubic feet. Spread the clippings evenly and lightly fluff them so the layer doesn't become dense. If you're using straw, you'll want a depth of 3 to 4 inches. That requires between 8 and about 10.6 cubic feet of straw. Because small straw bales yield about 1.5 cubic feet once loosened, you'll need between 5 and 7 bales, depending on the final thickness you choose. Break the straw apart as you spread it, so the blanket has even coverage and good airflow. If you prefer frost fabric, lay a single sheet across the bed and give yourself at least a foot of overhang on each side. For a 4 by 8 bed, the ideal blanket size is about 6 by 10 feet. Pull it tight and secure the entire perimeter with soil, rocks or landscape staples every 2 feet, so winter winds don't peel it off. In very windy areas, adding a second row of weights along the edges keeps it in place all season. You can also use a hybrid method. Place 2 to 3 inches of straw on the soil surface and top it with a 1-inch layer of dry grass clippings. This approach keeps insulation high without creating a thick mat and gives maximum thermal benefit with minimal risk of trapping moisture. For beds with live plants still growing, gently pull material back from the plant crowns to keep stems exposed while the surrounding soil stays protected. Soil naturally releases heat after sunset. Exposed ground loses that heat rapidly through direct contact with cold air and wind. But when you place an insulating layer over the surface, you interrupt that exchange. The blanket slows down the movement of warm air upward and cold air downward. That produces an effect similar to tucking the soil in for the night. Even a few degrees make a massive difference. Roots experience less shock, soil microbes stay more active, and moisture doesn't freeze as quickly. It's a simple action with an outsized impact on plant survival. The real-world temperature difference you can expect. Most gardeners who try this trick are surprised by the numbers. You know, a properly applied root zone blanket can actually keep soil about 1 to 3 degrees Celsius warmer, which translates to roughly 2 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And honestly, during those really sharp temperature drops, that difference can be even higher. If you're curious and want to see this for yourself, just place 2 soil thermometers at a depth of around 3 inches, one under the blanket and one in bare ground right beside it. Then check the temperatures at sunrise after a clear, cold night. That's when you'll really notice the contrast. That's when the difference is most dramatic, and well, that small gap is exactly what keeps roots alive. Plants rarely die because the air is cold. They die because their roots fall below a safe temperature. By keeping that root zone insulated, you're actually protecting the plant's most vulnerable part. Hardy greens like kale, collard, spinach and chard can remain alive far longer. And garlic and onions, they push through winter with much less stress. Perennial herbs avoid frost heaving, where plants literally get pushed out of the ground as the soil freezes and thaws. Even beds that won't be planted until spring benefit because microbes and earthworms stay active longer, preventing soil from turning lifeless and compacted. Avoid using wet or freshly cut clippings because they can mat down and create anaerobic pockets. Keep a small space around the base of any living plant to prevent stems from rotting. Check under the blanket once or twice in midwinter to make sure pests haven't moved in. And when spring arrives, pull the blanket back as soon as the soil begins warming so plants can breathe and sunlight can reach the bed again. The winter root zone blanket may be one of the simplest cold season tricks you'll ever learn, but its effect is huge. It turns struggling winter beds into survivors. It saves late fall plantings. It preserves microbial life. And it gives you a cleaner alternative to traditional mulch when you don't have compost ready. If you've never tried it before, choose one bed this winter and compare it with an uncovered one. The difference will convince you instantly. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Timeless Crops Haven and share this video with a fellow gardener who wants stronger, healthier winter beds.